Thanks for watching Slice of SciFi. I'm Noah Richmond.
And I'm Daren Gulsvik.
We're talking about Justice League.
Justice League America, Justice League
International, yes.
Or just Justice League.
Right. See, and they're right there. I think we're kind of showing our age because to us, Justice League means it's some sort of a comic book.
No, I just read about it, dude. I don't know anyone. Yeah, it is showing it.
Right. You know, we're under this illusion that it's this comic book and they're bringing together Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and they're all one team and they're fighting for America and American values and democracy and hope and freedom and apparently we're old. Apparently that's not really
we were
really how it works anymore.
Introverted in our kid youth. Yeah. No, I have no problem calling it Justice League International, but
yeah,
it's Justice League.
Well, sort of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a film called Justice League.
The third Zack Snyder offering. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, you're probably already telling from what I'm having to say about it. It's just not a film I'm terribly thrilled with. It's a film I did go in with high hopes about, just because I did feel like there had been some course correction with Wonder Woman. You know, I did not care what you had Zack Snyder doing with Superman. I thought he was completely the wrong character to be taking on Man of Steel, because Superman, to me, is still this embodiment of hope and compassion and justice and standing up and protecting the little guy. And I don't think that Zack Snyder's grim, dark take is right for that particular character or that particular universe of the DC universe that as I grew up with it.
Yeah.
I'm very much a fan of the animated the Justice League cartoons that were done in, I think it was the early 2000s.
A lot of people that share that same
right
love for that.
I've liked quite a bit of the animated films that Warner Brothers put out with Justice League and the Justice League characters.
Right.
The movies to me have just seemed like a completely different universe, and it's a universe where I'm just not recognizing the characters in. And so this is part 3 of Zack Snyder's universe. I had sort of thought maybe after Wonder Woman the studio was doing a bit of course correction, but if you saw Batman vs. Superman, to me this was more of the same, except with more of a Transformers overwhelm with the CGI and the action. I just didn't feel like it offered me anything as a fan who was reading these comic books in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Well, actually it was kind of interesting at the credits. They thanked Kurt Swan in there. I'd be interested to see what he thinks about the state of Superman. And going back up for a second, and Zack Snyder, I remember when the first trailer for Man of Steel hit, I was blown away. I was like, what is this, a Terrence Malick film? Because it was thoughtful. It was like an exposition on what it is to be a hero, like the hero's journey. And I was like, holy crap, this is really interesting, And it was like, when you finally got a chance to see it, it was just like, wait, what happened to that
right
movie we were promised? Because he can produce a really very sexy image and just, but the problem again, like him and his fellow contemporary directors alike, they tend to overuse these special effects in green screen. And while we're talking about superhero movies, obviously it's something that is required. I think if you look at a lot of Marvel movies, they have a nice balance. Even the Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy, where there's a lot of green screen effects, still had a nice balance to it. But
yeah, well, and this film was a bit odd in that a lot of the effects actually didn't look very good.
Yeah, they were bad.
And it was a $300 million movie.
Is that how much it was?
Yeah.
That's even worse. Yeah, because you're right, though. Some of the effects were just god-awful. I mean, they looked like they were outsourced to some upstarting company that
right.
One person did all the effects for it. It was bad.
Right. Yeah, well, and okay, so the film itself, putting aside everything I just said about what, the key thing that is just disappointing for somebody like me, which is I don't recognize this universe, and it's supposedly based on property that I do care about. But in addition, there's just the fact that they're trying to have what Marvel has without doing the work up front to build it.
Yeah.
They just threw us straight into all of the Justice League without giving any of the backstory with the characters, and the way the characters are introduced, it's very cursory. They're just sort of thrown in. They seem very generic. I didn't find anything engaging about, well, except for Wonder Woman, but she's already been introduced.
Well, the thing I don't understand, this kind of drives me, I'm like a little kind of at loss here, is you know, we've pretty much anybody knows the backstory of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and for some Flash because of the TV show. But Cyborg is a kind of a risk here because, you know, growing up, he was a Teen Titan, but I don't understand why they couldn't have brought in Green Lantern, you know, and maybe Bennett more. But again, I was okay with Cyborg. It was just the way they did it. There was like go ahead and throw him in. And
I can only guess maybe because the Green Lantern movie didn't do well, so maybe now they're scared of Green Lantern. But
I'd have been okay. I have a feeling that if this had been done, the entire movie had been done by Joss Whedon, it would have been an entirely different movie. But by trying to develop Cyborg, we're left with a couple minutes of filling in the blank, you know. And we know who he is and what he is. He's a kick-ass character, by the way. It's just, you know, felt like they wanted to throw all these characters in together, and that kind of takes time to kind of mature and slowly, you know, marinate, because you as an audience member need to get familiar with those characters, even if you're already familiar with them. But under the current storyline, so like Flash, I don't even like what they made him into, this quirky, klutzy kid that didn't.
Right.
He runs really goofy.
You're right. Again, it comes back to what I was saying about none of this universe being recognizable to me, none of those characters being recognizable to me. I mean, Aquaman.
Yeah, well, Aquaman, he was like,
right.
Hey.
He's got an attitude, and he's selfish and full of himself, and
it was like Drago, king from Game of Thrones, just decided.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the best he could, and Jason Momoa in the role, you know.
Right.
But it's just not the Aquaman that I think everyone expects to be portrayed, you know. But I don't know. We'll see how this all turns out. I suspect a lot of people are going to like it. I mean, I can see why some people may, because they're exciting sequences, I guess.
My own 2 cents on all of this is, if you're somebody that saw Man of Steel and you liked it, you saw Batman versus Superman and you liked it, I don't see any reason for you to be unhappy with this one. If you are somebody like me that's didn't find those previous outings very satisfying, I just don't see this winning anybody over. I honestly found it to be probably the most painful movie-going experience I've had since Transformers 4, in terms of just, one, completely over-the-top action sequence after another with no development of anything else. And it also gets into, let's building, they want to be Marvel, and so they're going to another story of like the big bad, who's the biggest, baddest,
the Mother Box is really more or less the Infinity Stones.
Exactly. There is a direct copy. So,
but the thing also for me is that we have a team-based movie. It really requires and demands chemistry with the characters, and I find myself irritated by some of the interactions because they were futile and they were childish, but more importantly, some of the dialogue that was written. It was really bad. And so when you take an actor like Henry Cavill, who, he can, I guess he does okay in certain roles, but he's not going to win, any Academy Awards anytime soon against, and Amy Adams is actually a pretty good quality actress. And so, but even her trying to carry him, for me, it was kind of painful. And some of the dialogue was just really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I was squirming in my seat because it was that bad. So,
right.
And I really wanted this to be a good movie.
Yeah. So and again, if you're happy with Suicide Squad and you're happy with Batman versus Superman, you're gonna enjoy this.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our thoughts on Justice League. And thanks for watching Slice of Sci-Fi.